Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. You're registered. We know you are. Tournament ready. Starts this coming weekend. It's great stuff. Baseball is around. I can smell the grass. It's or the turf, whichever you prefer. Either way, it's baseball time, and I hope y'all are ready. We got some great stuff coming up with Game 7 Baseball. Tournaments around the corner. So make sure if you haven't got in one, if you got an open space, whatnot, make sure your team's registered. Get into Game7Baseball.com. Go find a tournament, whether it's Tennessee, Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, wherever the case may be. Check it out. You won't regret it. Dave and Dave do a great job. Game7Baseball.com. Today on the Prime Sports Midwest call-in link, I have a couple of guys from Prep Baseball. We're going to be talking some rankings today. Ooh, that's the big ones. Andy Urban, all the way over on the west side of the state. Andy, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Excited to be here today. Ready to talk some baseball.
Absolutely. And always joining us from his command center. There you go. I love that. The guru, Kevin Moulder. How you doing, buddy? We're just making it bigger every time, Kevin.
Hey, bigger and better always. Got all parts of Missouri covered today, as we always do. But, yeah, I'm doing great. Beautiful weather. Must mean it's opening day is right around the corner, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think everybody's ready for it. I mean, everything's fluttering right now. I think everybody's ready to get on the field and start swinging the bats. Hope the weather stays. It looks like it's going to, all points showing west. That's what I like. So today we're going to get into this. Now, folks, I'm going to be releasing some stuff here. Kevin, I'm going to let him go to this. I'm going to be releasing some top 10s of Class 5, 6, and 4, 5, and 6 myself from YBM, my own thoughts on this, and we're going to discuss a little bit of this today. But, Kevin, talk to the folks about your rankings coming when and where they can see those.
Yeah, we're going to post our large school and small school rankings today. Couple days before the start of the season, and this is the one that is out to make me look silly. These are educated guesses. We've gathered a lot of information throughout the winter. Obviously, we saw teams play last season, but a lot changes. We've seen a lot of players in our state through January and February. We've put together that information, and this is our preseason poll, and this is the one, where nothing is really earned or said on the field. This is our projection, and then we wait a week and a half, and then we start going off of more or less what's happened on the field, and the kids kind of decide, the players decide where the rankings are. I always like to tell players when I coach, they write the lineup. I just put the pen to the paper. So this is the one where it's a collection of, Andy and I getting together, Diego. We talk, we poll the high school coaches, we get information from them, and it's a combination of our events, and then also the information we're getting from the high school coaches. And, this just gets the conversation started, and it's a lot of fun to talk about these things. But then ultimately, Friday kicks off, the baseball season in the state of Missouri, and ultimately we'll let the play on the field do the talking, and we'll crown a champion in Ozark, Missouri, at the very end of May, beginning in June, depending on your class.
There you go, Andy. You got. So how much did you put into this?
I am a secondary source for Kevin on the west side of the state. A lot of those players will come to showcases that I'm running personally while Kevin's running elsewhere. So I will feed Kevin some extra tidbits of information. I know Diego does as well. Kevin really leads these rankings, but we have conversations. We talk about prospects is really where I'm feeding in. Hey, this guy's been really good lately. This guy hasn't been as sharp, and then he takes that information, kind of compiles it all up, and really determines where teams and players fit. I just don't have a ton of resources or exposure to the east side of the state until summer comes and people start coming and playing at Creekside. So I chip in when he asks for extra info, and hopefully I'm useful in that endeavor.
Brian, if anything looks off or wrong to any of our listeners or people, that we'll put Andy's information up, and it was his idea, his fault. So that's the key to remember. We talk about that with you too, that we'll put Andy's cell phone out there as well and get them corrected.
Oh man. Well, that started early.
We can.
So there you go, folks. Like, share, and subscribe, please. Well, let's start. And just an understanding with P.B.R, folks, with Prep Baseball Report, these guys are not this is a large school. We're going to start with just large schools. So this is Class 5 and Class 6 schools, okay? So over the last couple of years, they've split these, which I think is a good idea personally. I've liked it when they split the 6 and the 5. I think it's given a lot more attention to these schools, and it's really good baseball at both levels. And so that's where we're going to start. And I want to look at the bottom 5 here of your large school rankings, guys. Starting with number 15, Parkway South. That's a really good baseball team over there.
It is. Got a new head coach this year, Matt Brown, son of Scott Brown, who has won state championship, former CBC and Vianney coach, and I think now back at CBC as an assistant coach as well. But Matt Brown, who is a heck of a player, played at Arkansas and Missouri State, now leads the charge over at Parkway South. He has a talented roster this year, led by Brady Kellenbrink, who is a Super 60 participant, fast left-hander, heading to LSU. Will be on the draft radar this spring for the pro scouts. Up to 96, strong, physical young man, really good feel for the changeup, has a curveball to go with it. That's a true ace. And we talk about, you look at Missouri the past couple of years, Brian, we've been down there for the state championships. What do all those state champions have in common? They have a big-time number one on the mound. Yeah. You go back to Tate McGuire, Carson Milbrandt. That's in Missouri. That's kind of how it has been going recently. You have to have that guy on the mound. Parkway South has that guy on the mound, I would say.
April 10th, it's a Wednesday this year. April 10th, we've got DeSmet at Parkway South. We're going to be live streaming that game. I think that's going to be a dandy matchup there. DeSmet going to Parkway South. We may not see Kellenbrink in this one. I don't know how the schedules work, but
and the thing I like about Parkway South is they have some pitching depth. Eddie Ahern, who is also a future gamer, kind of a throwback, 3-sports star quarterback of the football team, 4-year starter on the basketball team. He's our top uncommitted senior in our rankings. He can help you out. He'll be up on the mound. He's upper 80s on the mound with good arm side run and sink. And then also is their catcher, can really throw from behind the plate. And then Luke Sullivan, who's a 6'4" right-hander with a big-time feel for things on the mound, with a 3-pitch mix, kind of a later developer. Took a big jump this offseason. Got up to 90 at one of our events for the first time. Before, he was kind of a mid-80s pitchability guy. Great for, getting outs in high school. He's taken that next jump, and he's So that gives them a formidable 1-2-3, which Andy, as you know, if you have 3 starting pitchers, you've got a chance every single time out.
So this area back here is basically production. They do a lot of the artwork back here. They do the production. So any of that stuff that comes in off of, we'll say, our fanware stores, stuff that comes in off the team stores, a lot of the coaches wear, a lot of the last minute, hey, we got to have it in the next 10 minutes stuff. That's all comes back here. This area is where all the day-to-day stuff that comes in really goes through. The retail store is its own little entity. This is where the real work is done.
We're gonna get back to this though. Fort Zumwalt South is next on the list. Now, I think this is a team that has Final Four capabilities. I've got them number 2 in the state. Personally, I think this team is loaded for bear. I think they've got the experience. Hankey, Cox, Mendel, Fullhorst, Adkins, Reynolds. The list goes on with this team. There's depth there. There's experience there. They've been there the last 2 out of 3 years. And this is a Class 5 school. I think they'll probably stay in Class 5. I know that one year they bump, but that gets kind of kooky. But I think they'll stay Class 5. If they stay Class 5, they're a top 4 team in the state.
That's my favorite subject in Missouri. We don't know the exact classes yet, but I would anticipate them staying in 5. And if they are, as you said, they've been to the Final Four 2 of the past 3 years. They had that young group, and they've played them for multiple years, and now that young group is seniors. This is the type of team where they're not just trying to get to state; they're trying to win state. They're one of the top 15 teams in the state, in my opinion, regardless of class.
Yeah.
They got a lot of pitching depth, 4 legit guys up top. You got Carter Cox, who can be a number 1, also the quarterback of the football team, great athlete. You got a shutdown catcher, Connor Mendel back there, heading to Northern Illinois. A lot of experience. They've been there. They've done that. This is going to be one of the top teams, not only in the St. Louis area, but in the state. So this is going to be a fun team to watch this spring. Hey, and the other thing they do, and they always teeter. They play with a big time edge about them. It's almost like watching a junior college team. Like they are intense. They're coming right at you. They're kind of brash personalities. I like it. But if you're in their way, they're going to try to steamroll you.
Yeah.
And as we talk about these, I get to listen in to some of these East Side conversations between Kevin and Diego. And one thing that always comes up with these guys is when in doubt, it's hard to bet against them because they win. Yeah. Especially at the beginning of the year, like Kevin said at the beginning of this, you don't know. You put educated guesses on, but one of the strongest ways to educate your guess, who wins year in and year out, and hedge your bets that way. And these guys are winners.
Yeah, they are. And I've watched them the last few years, and I love Mendel behind the plate. I've seen him backpick so many guys at second base, just getting, and I haven't seen he's got one of the most accurate cannons. I mean, he can throw the ball with accuracy, and it's the guy is really tremendous behind the plate. And I think as a senior back there, I think, Kevin, you could probably say this too. I think Carter Cox We had him on a player spotlight. I really enjoyed talking to him. I think this year he's kind of figured out the pitching part. Agreed?
Yes, and I actually saw him during their jamboree. Yes, I think you're right. He's always had good stuff. He's commanding the strike zone. You got Evan Fullhorst on the mound as well, heading to Valparaiso, and what a luxury. Having a frontline catcher in high school baseball is a luxury most schools don't truly have. A Division I type catcher, and they have that not only to handle their arms, but it shuts down the running game. And he's also a pretty physical bat too, so he's going to figure into things in the middle of that lineup and kind of be the centerpiece of that offense, kind of the anchor, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Kevin, you talked about needing to have a number one in Missouri and three strong arms. I would argue in order to win a state championship in Missouri, you have to have that catcher back there too. I don't think you can win those competitive games with everything on the line without a championship level catcher. Again, I think it's a huge separator.
No doubt, we've all seen that where you got the big arm and then the catcher that can't handle them, and that can cause some real issues for team. But South does not have that issue.
No, they don't. Next up, you got Willard. Coach Scott McGee, he kind of seems to just reload that team every year, and that's the terminology. We always use the term program. This is a program, and this group starts at the youth levels. We've had Coach McGee on the show where he's our opening day. Next Tuesday, we've got Camdenton at Willard. Of course, it's tragic. I hate to hear that Durnan won't be able to pitch. So that's kind of tough with Camdenton. I hated to hear that news, but hey, it's still going to be a good game. I think Camdenton's got a lot of good players there still. Willard, that's going to be another good team there. I think they're definitely in the top 3, top 5. Kevin, your thoughts?
Most likely a 5A school. I've heard some scuttlebutt that they're close to the line. I think there was 2 or 3 schools above them in the pecking order to go to 6A. But in certain worlds that they could scoot up to 6A, but I think they'll be 5. We'll obviously wait and see if they're 5A, and even if they're 6A. But especially at the 5A level, they're going to be, again, championship aspirations there. They're not just trying to get to state. They're a team that could legitimately win it. They're there year in, year out, right on that cusp always. And they're a loaded group this year. Coach McGee, one of the top coaches in the state. It's really competitive now down there in the southwest part of the state. So I know you're going down next week, Brian. I'll be down there a week or 2 after that. So it's not going to be it's certainly not going to be an easy road. Right. But I do like this Willard outfit this year, and we'll look forward to seeing them this spring.
Any thoughts down there, Andy? Have you heard much about them?
Yeah, it's just a name that continually echoes around just because of the tradition and the consistency at which they play with. So not a whole lot of specifics, but Willard's going to be in the mix, and you're just never surprised when you see their name in the win column.
No, and I'm looking forward. This is the first time since the championships that we're going to get to see them play in a regular season. Looking forward to that. It's a great venue down there. The stadium, we got a chance to go down there and meet Coach McGee at his facility and getting ready in preparation for this. So we're excited to go down there and watch that team play and call that game. So I appreciate Coach McGee and all his help getting this together for us. So, we're going to see that. I think Willard's right there. Festus, the defending state Class 5A champions. I think they lost a little bit. Myself personally, I think they still got some dudes, and they're going to be a very good baseball team. But I we'll see what their youth can come back with this year, Kevin.
So it starts and stops with their ace, who's started two back years. He started as a freshman in the Final Four for him, and he started the state championship game and was the winning pitcher. So can't have any more experience as a junior than having 2 state championship starts under your belt, or Final Four starts. And so Mason Shermer back is a huge thing for Festus. The junior committed to Mizzou, also anchors the middle of the lineup. So kind of have a two-way star there. And again, having back-to-back trips, it's kind of the, you got to take them down before you can beat them. So, or to dethrone them, you're going to have to beat them. So I like this Festus team a lot. A three-peat is certainly not out of the question for this group. Are they going to run into stiff competition? Absolutely. But this isn't just a courtesy, hey, well, they won it last year, so we're going to throw them in the rankings. These guys are loaded again. I'll almost be surprised if they're not back in Springfield or Ozark this year come Final Four. You got
to say, replacing Ian Brown and his name just went out of my head. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. And I like this young man. He's at Jeffco. Oh my gosh, Nate.
Nathaniel Moore?
Yeah, Nate Moore. Okay. Ian Brown, yeah. Nate Moore, they were big-time pitchers for that team last year. That's 2 guys, 2 arms. It'll be interesting to see how they replace that.
Yeah, it will be. They had a sophomore center fielder, Brady Nolan, that's a junior now, that's a special talent as well. So that, yes, and like anything else, they lost Bizzle at senior catcher as well, but it's high school. You're always going to lose some guys. You're always going to add some guys. It will be interesting, but I think
that's why I think really maybe they. Group. It is, and I think they're still talented. They're up there. But I'm not. You got
Hayden Bates at shortstop, who's a really talented guy. You got a senior shortstop there, so it'll be interesting. But I like this Festus team, and like I said, a three-peat is not out of the question for them. Obviously, we're giving them the nod as the top 5A team. Not to ruin the rest of the rankings, but they are the top 5A. Team in our rankings.
There you go. That's some love right there, folks. That's some love. So we're going to go now over to the western part of the state, Andy. I think this team is a little higher personally in the rankings than where you have them. Myself, this is my own personal thought process. Blue Springs South. This team, to me, they are loaded. And I think that they're going to be a very difficult team to deal with. Not only from a senior standpoint, but, man, at the junior class, this team up and down, they're just loaded everywhere. Thoughts?
They lost a lot, and they're going to have guys step up. Is the talent there? Yes, but there's some unproven pieces. Ashton Nance, the Kansas commit in the junior class, he's gonna have to deliver. And he's a two-way athlete who probably shines a little brighter on the mound right now. But they're gonna need him to do it. Not saying he can't, but he's gonna have to play a role that he hasn't played before. Spencer Studerman is gonna have to the recent Central Missouri commit is going to have to step up. The Garrett Roper is going to have to step up. Mason Stover. There's some new names, not new to us as far as prospects, but the guys that are going to be in the mix and asked to do things that they weren't asked to do last year. But you also have Grant Hollister at the same. Grant's been a leader since it feels like he's been there for 6 years now and leading that team. It's really, really hard to bet against that kid in any team he's on. He's just going to hit. He's going to play defense. He's never going to get sped up. There's some pieces some guys that are really talented, but they're going to have to deliver. So that's a really interesting team. I've seen some other rankings come out that have them really high. I've seen some other rankings come out that have them lower. Everybody's got them ranked, but it's an interesting group this year. Kev, what do you think?
Andy, if you had one at bat with the game on the line, 2 outs in the 7th inning, runner at second base, who you putting out there? Who you want?
It's really hard to not just immediately say Grant Hollister.
He's that good.
Yeah.
It's really tough. The guy has played at a high level his entire career. He's come through in the clutch. He plays with just an even keelness that never gets sped up. The moment's never too big. And by the way, he can really, really hit.
Special hitter, certainly one of the top bats in the state, if not the top bat, in terms of pure hitting. I'm not talking about the running and who has the most power, just bat to ball skills. Grant Hollister, 4-year starter at a big time program. So Brian, to your point, if they're going to make the charge, they're led there. And last year they were one of our kind of our picks to make a good run, and were upset in the playoffs last year. So certainly, I'm sure they had a long offseason to think about that, and I'm sure that drove and put a couple extra logs on their fire throughout the winter, and I'm sure they'll be ready to go this spring.
There you go. When I'm looking through the names and I'm looking through these people and where this is going, and Blue Springs has been in it. They've been there. They've done that, and it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. And I'm hoping. I talked with Coach Perkins on March 30th. We're going to be able to live stream the third place game and the championship game of the Midwest Classic. So I'm looking forward to that, and we may see this team in that. I know they're in the Midwest Classic, so it'll be interesting to see how they come through that tournament. It's always a grind. You never know who comes out, but it'll be eager to see if it ends up at Francis Howell and Blue Springs South in that championship game of that Midwest Classic. We'll see. One can only hope.
Yeah, there we go.
There's a lot of prospects to be seen. And the other thing that makes Blue Springs South interesting, they're going to be strong on the, Grant Hollister on the left side of the infield, but also a guy who keeps getting better in Colin Dobson. And that's a guy who was asked to be a role player last year as a shortstop, a guy to fill in and be a piece. If he can really come into his own and be a top middle of the order bat along with the elite level defense, we're probably seeing him in the postseason winning games.
There you go. And this is why these are predictions. These are projections, folks. We haven't seen people play, and I think that goes to what you said at the top of this. We're projecting. We haven't seen them play yet. So there you go. At number 10, and this is a team I honestly kind of spaced out on, and I shouldn't have. But that's Eureka. It's a good baseball team.
Won an awful lot of baseball games last year, and in return, a lot of positional players. Probably led by Brady Piccarelli, physical left-handed senior bat, hit over 440, with a ton of extra base hits, doubles, triples. I think he had 5 homers last year to boot. The Mizzou commit or signee. But then there's a lot of depth behind them. That offense is going to be one of the better offenses. They have a sophomore that I like a lot that got some time as a freshman, Craig Ringy. He's a shortstop. He might play third base this year. You got Kyle Regg, who I believe will probably play shortstop, returning great athlete. So you got a big-time left side right there. And then some more infield depth. Brody Hunt's a really solid infielder, handles the bat well. The piece that's going to be interesting for Eureka is they have experienced positional players, and then they have a senior right-hander named Will Pfizer, who can be in the upper 80s. But a lot of their talented arms are sophomores. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. It needs to be, they need Will Pfizer to have a big year on the mound. They need the sophomore Dakota Joggers, big-time athlete, good basketball player on the varsity basketball team, about 6'6". He's going to have to have a big piece of it for them this year. So they lost to Asher Sink, who was their top pitcher last year. So it'll be it will be interesting. That's my one question with Eureka is, can these young arms step up and kind of lead the way? They have another sophomore named Ben Lackey, who's got a real chance, 6'3" or so, right-hander that is also in the upper 80s. So they got the pieces, they got the talent. That'll be the thing. If we can mesh that together, they're going to have a special type season.
Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that Dominic Anselmo over there behind the dish for those guys?
He just transferred from Marquette. So, yes, Dominic Anselmo, the Bradley signee, that's a big-time transfer. They're going to – defensively, that's going to be rock solid there. And then you got someone that can – I like that they have a senior catcher. We just talked about the talent in the sophomore, the young arms. It does kind of steady the waters when you got a veteran back there behind the plate dealing with those young, talented arms.
That transfer could make all the difference for them with his ability to help. Your coaching staff can only do so much. At some point, you need the guy catching the ball to help those young guys grow. There's a chance he makes all the difference for that staff this year between just competing and winning a state championship.
Absolutely.
I love that thought process too. When you got a catcher here that's going to Bradley, he gets in there with a young staff and is able to develop and help them grow through the season and make an impact. That shows a college coach that he can handle a pitching staff. I mean, that's the job of a catcher, is how well do you catch all of them? How well do you bring that game out of the pitcher, correct?
100%. And Eureka was one of the teams, they were kind of the favorite in their district. Last year, they were in that district with, I believe, Lafayette and Vianney, and Lafayette got the better of everyone, and I think they were the 5 seed. So it kind of just talks about the depth and of that district, and Eureka's going to have their work cut out for them, but they should be one of the top teams in our state again this year.
Let's move to Kevin's favorite venue in the state. Jackson High School comes in at number 9. Coach Roach down there. J.P. Sauer leading the charge back. Caden Bogenpole over at Missouri State destroying the baseball. Man, he's playing some good baseball over there, isn't he?
Yes, he is. They got him right in the 2-hole most nights. But this Jackson outfit is one of my favorites in the state. We all know that. They're going to be strong again. Obviously, you don't replace a Caden Bogenpool, especially at the high school level. 6'6", light tower power, also can get up on the mound and be 95. But what they're going to do is they're going to fill, and it's going to be a team effort to replace that, because there's not going to be a sophomore, a freshman, or a junior that comes up that can provide that power and the wow tool set that Bogenpool had. But there's a lot of pieces. They got a true number one in JP Sauer, the Tulane signee. So they got a true ace on the mound, which is huge, especially come postseason time. They got a lot of depth. I like their leadoff hitter a lot. Cooper Rhodes, left-handed bat, kind of table setter, prototypical leadoff type guy. Can grind you out on at bats. Can run a bit. Hit for a really high average last year. So they have depth, and they're also one of the ones that they're not really what I call a good team. It's a good program. It's year in, year out. They seem to replace and replenish, even when they lose a couple of the top level guys, because they had a catcher, Baden Hackworth, who's now at St. Louis U. So they certainly lost some pieces, but they have enough depth within that program to withstand that, and they are in our top 10.
There you go. Moving up here next, real quick, is one of our favorites. I think they're a little high here because I think there's some question marks, but I mean they definitely got talent. It's one of those teams in Fort Zumwalt West. They're winners. They just win. And Coach Goff always has that team ready to play, and they structure that team around defense and pitching. And, they lost the two big arms last year in Carson Clark and Kenton Deverman, and Jeter Rupp, Tanner Sullivan coming in this year. It's going to be an interesting mix. You have the stud sophomore in Nolan Sissom, and the anchor there that's been there since a sophomore, and Nick Alagna. This is a team that's got some question. We'll just kind of have to wait and kind of see.
Yeah, and you know what? I did a lot of thinking on this one, and I got a little burned by him last year because I think I had the same approach. They lost Deverman and Whistler. How can they, move, be that good if they lost two Division I big time left-handed arms? And lo and behold, they made it up into our top 3 or 4 in the state. Now they came up short in the district championship game against Howell, but were clearly one of our better 5 or 6 teams in the state last year. Won 30 plus games again. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. I really like them up the middle. You got Nolan Sissom, you got Nick Alagna there. That it doesn't get any more steady than that in the state right off the bat. So Nolan Sissom either led off or hit third for him and started it short the entire season as a true freshman. The Mizzou commit there, super talented. I think they'll find a way. I like Jeter Rupp on the mound. They always replenish. So I feel good about this Zumwalt West team. And the question is, who's going to be the guy that steps up? We'll see. They also have a freshman that I really like. And they proved last year they're not scared to put one out there and put him in a key spot. Look for Michael Wolf potentially to make this ball club and make an impact on the varsity level. He's an infielder by trade. I don't know if they'll need him on the infield this season, But he's a good athlete. You could comfortably slide him out to left or right field. You could put him at third base, obviously DH. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. But either way, Michael Wolff's going to be a name to watch over the next couple of years, and will make an impact sooner rather than later at the varsity level.
Yeah. He's a big physical bat, Michael Wolff.
Yes.
I mean, as a 14-year-old, we saw him last year playing, and we had him out at a home run derby for one of our fundraising guys, St. Louis Youth Sports Outreach with Billy Mayhall. And I mean, just a big physical kid. I always look at this when I see a 14-year-old standing next to me and he's bigger than me. I'm like, that's kind of kooky, man. We saw a lot of those out there with you, Andy, didn't we?
Yeah, that 26 class in Kansas is out of control.
I mean, it was big. So I think that's it'll be interesting. But Coach Goff always has those kids ready to play. So I think it's very interesting. So the next one up here in number 7 spot, Andy, you can probably kick this off. Blue Springs.
When you talk Blue Springs, you got to start with the Gibbler brothers. As they go, that club will go. Cole Gibbler up to some reports 96, 97 from the left side on the mound. He's added a ton of physicality. Didn't have his best year on the mound last year. Really produced as a bat. Look for him to get right this year, and not only does his stuff and history say he's got a chance to be one of the best pitchers in Missouri, he may be in the running for National Pitcher of the Year. At least the talent and track record is there to suggest that, with the added velo, the pitchability. And then, brother Nick, right-hander, he was up to 90-92 with a sinker and a slider this preseason as well. So that adds, he's always been a good athlete. He's going to play in the infield for him too. Those two guys alone on both sides of the baseball are enough to win games. I can't overstate how talented those guys are and what type of impact they can have on a game. But it's not just those two. Going through my notes right here, Logan Kraft has a chance to do something behind the dish for him. It's a club, and it's a club that wins. Coach McGillicuddy over there understands the game and competes year in and year out. It'll definitely be someone I get to immediately out of the gate, and we get coverage on immediately, and to see where they're at this year. So we'll find out soon enough with those guys.
Do you think these two seniors, Ronan Vincenti and Trenton Mitchell, will they have impact as far as pitching as well?
Vincenti has been one of those guys that I think I saw him a couple years ago in game, fastball heavy, some projection in the frame. There's been all sorts of buzz about his velo taking a big jump this year. Again, we'll see if there's strikes there. Not to say there's not going to be, but we'll see if there's strikes. And if he is, yeah, it adds a huge weapon to the pitching staff.
There you go.
I would call him the wild card of the team, and if he is good, that becomes one of the most formidable rotations depth-wise. Obviously, you got Gibbler, who you can make an argument is our top pitcher in the state. If you're rolling, if Vincenti has taken his game to another level, then you're talking about a state championship caliber type ball club.
Wow. There you go.
And Drew McConnell, I got to throw out that Drew McConnell has taken one of the bigger jumps forward. He was always a guy that could play baseball, always sound, but he's got some strength to him now. It gives you an anchor at shortstop in the middle of the field that really understands the game. He can slow everybody else down. So yeah, they've got a chance to win a lot of baseball games.
Helps having a Division I shortstop. Drew heading to Evansville. So a lot to like about this Blue Springs ball club.
Man, a lot going on in Blue Springs. There's a lot of talent in Blue Springs School District. My goodness.
It's a hotbed right now.
My goodness. Number 6, Nixa, Southwest Missouri. Final Four contestant last year, put up some really good baseball in that state championship. Came in 4th. We're going to have Nixa we're going to be at their facility. They got Springfield Catholic coming in. That's going to be Thursday next week, the 21st. So we're looking forward to that. Coach Logan Hughes, great guy. Really enjoyed talking with him. You got him at number 6 here, Kevin. Let's light that up.
So yeah, Nixa kind of crashed the party last year. Truth be told, maybe arrived on the scene possibly a year early. And credit to them, Coach Hughes did a phenomenal job. They had 2 of the best sophomores in the state last year, now juniors. Caden Cloud is a special talent. Absolutely lit it up at the future games. Now committed to Kentucky. So you got a dynamic shortstop. You got Wyatt Vincent in center field for them. The Missouri State commit can really hit. So that is a dynamic junior 1-2 there. You got Rylan Michelle. Dude can flat swing the bat, heading to Crowder. And then you got Jackson Gamble back on the mound. I really like them this year. Now they're not sneaking up on anyone this year. So they are, I think, pretty widely regarded as the top team in that southwest part of the state, which is going to be extremely competitive. We've talked about that at length over the past couple weeks or month. So it's not going to be easy for them whatsoever, but they are going to show up to the field and there's going to be a target on their back every single day now. So how they handle that, we'll see. I think they have just as much, if not more, talent this year, honestly. So they're set to have a huge year, and they're going to be fun to follow. I'm looking forward to getting to see Nixa this spring, though.
They also, senior catcher going to Drury, Jackson Edwards, is behind the plate. And we've talked about that. Those are keys. When you're solid up the middle, defensively, you have that senior catcher, that senior leadership, then you got, I think that makes a huge impact. So, yeah, I think Nix's got a path back to that Final Four. It's definitely good. It would be fun to watch.
Going back to my Central Missouri days, we would recruit Nixa players all the time whenever we could, and it always seemed like they played with a little bit of an edge. They expected, I don't think anybody on that Nixa team was probably surprised that they won last year. That program always expects to be in the mix, expects to beat good teams, and I think there's something to be said about playing with some quiet confidence and some grit that school, you just get used to seeing them play with. So now that we've, like Kevin said, you take that talent, mature it another year, I think they'll be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, man. And Coach Hughes has got that program going in the right direction. He's working from the bottom up, and those kids coming into the program. So he's got some guys over there. Kudos to them. Next, number 5, the back-to-back state champs, Liberty North team here. They lost some guys, and I said this to Kevin off the air. I personally think, they might be a little lower than that. There's a lot of respect here for this team. They've got a lot of guys coming back, but, you lose Tate McGuire. I think it was Ty Wisdom as well,
Yes.
off that team. They lost their number 2 starter. It's going to be tougher for them to make that run. It's not that they don't have the talent to do so, but I think Liberty North is they're right there. It's not like they aren't talented, but you're dealing with some very tough teams in that western part of the state, guys.
I'll jump in here real quick on this. 100%. You got the back-to-back defending state champions. and they lost a ton. There is zero question about that. I look at this. Coach Stiegel is one of the best coaches in the state. I'll start there. This district they're in is insane, and we've talked about that before. So this is a good chance where we have a top 10 team that won't get out of their district. Now, I'm not saying Liberty North won't, because they certainly could. They have the last couple of years, but they also have an awful lot of talent returning. Trey Snyder's been on the map since his freshman year. He's back as a senior shortstop, arguably the top player in the state. You got Bo Jonas, same thing, been on the map the whole time, been starting since his freshman year behind the plate. So you got two big-time seniors at the catcher and in shortstop position, heading to great programs. I think you got to keep them in there, and that's why they're in our top 5. And until someone knocks them off, they're the champ, right? So that being said, we did slide them back a couple spots, just acknowledging that they did lose an awful lot. So it'll be interesting, but it's another program that replenishes. They reload. They don't really rebuild, and it will be a fun team to follow. Andy, what you got? Any more thoughts on this North Ball Club?
Yeah, I'll just throw out a player to watch, and it'll be William Bologna, shortstop on his summer teams. Obviously, won't be playing short over Trey, but could really firm up the middle if he ends up being the everyday second baseman for them. That it puts a premier defender on the infield with them. A little bit undersized still, hasn't quite physically got to the level of the Trey Snyders of the world, but isn't scared, doesn't play scared, is going to be ready for the speed of the game. So he could be a nice piece that really helps them kind of bridge the gap from last year to this year, if he's in the mix.
There you go.
Senior pitcher right hand Matthew Lewis is going to be a key to this team too. He's going to really need to step up and fill a void for them this season. But I still expect Liberty North to be highly successful this spring.
Well, and there's another one of our Missouri Showcase games. We're appreciative of Coach Stiegel. Went over. They got a beautiful new turf field going in over there. As a huge high school, man. Oh my gosh, that thing's massive. But we're going to be out there April 29th. That's a Monday, April 29th. Staley's coming to Liberty North. We're going to have that Missouri Showcase game. I got Andy's going to come over and work with us on that one as well, help us call that game. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's one you don't want to miss. That's going to be one of those games that you have on your calendar. You're like, don't want to miss that. Lee Summit West, number 4. This is a loaded team as well. I mean, up and down. A couple of big-time bats in this lineup. We know Drew Dickerson. Is it Adkin, right? The kid going to Oklahoma, the third baseman? Andy,
Jackson Aiken.
Jackson Aiken. What's your thoughts on this group here?
Kev, you want to jump in, or do you want me just to start rolling? Because this is a group I'm pretty familiar with and really
go for it. Kick us off here.
Yeah, so I'll start with Dickerson, who pro scouts are buzzing about. It's all the tools you could ever want in every facet of the game. If the production matches the talent this year, he's going to win some games on his own. But let's kick it back to Jackson Aiken, who you were just talking about. That guy's big, physical, and had a huge summer. He could be one of the better bats in the state on his own and help anchor the left side of that infield. And then you got Wood is the last name. Let me see if I can remember. Kevin, Tyler Wood, is Is that the name I'm looking for?
Tyler Wood.
I just saw Tyler Wood throw mid 90s fastballs in the preseason that just absolutely explode out of his hand. And oh yeah, he's pretty physical with the bat too. So when you start talking top end talent, professional players on the field, this Lee Summit West team is ready to go. You go through our rankings in every class, and it seems like they got a guy in almost every spot that's gonna contribute. You got Jake Riggin, the left-hander, is a guy who came to events this preseason. It was really interesting. Look for him to possibly have a breakout season as a rising junior, a mid-80s left-hander. I'm not sure that's a name that a ton of people know about, but he sure grabbed our attention this preseason. Kev, anybody else you want to jump in and talk about?
Sophomore Hayden Sharp is going to be a name to watch too. They got a lot of depth in that lineup, so it's going to be tough for a young guy to crack in. But Hayden's committed to Mizzou. I would imagine they'd find a spot for him, whether that's at first base, a corner outfield spot, DH. There's just a lot of depth, and we start stacking these big names in there. You could see that's going to be a fairly formidable lineup.
I'm just looking at the seniors here on this squad. Caden Carter going to Missouri Southern, Evan Watson, Johnson County, Owen Poly, Umsel, Austin Marsh, Northwest Missouri State. Around this group, a lot of senior leadership kids going to play at good quality college programs. I mean, Lee Summit West, I think, is a team that has the potential to be in that Final Four, guys.
They can play at every position. There's no holes.
Is it pitching that's going to be the big key for them? I think it is for everybody, really, right?
Yeah, if guys like Dylan Cassidy and Jake Riggin can really develop, be left-handed arms. If Tyler Wood, with young guys that throw as hard as Tyler, you never know how many innings you're going to get as far as wanting to protect them just a little bit. Two-way guys that are going to play in the field. So I wouldn't think Tyler Wood's going to be a complete game shutout every time out. He's still growing and developing his command. But yeah, there's just, if one guy has a bad game over there for Lee Summit West, you would expect somebody else to pick them up and to be able to produce. That lineup is just, you're not going to have many holes in it. There's not many times for a pitcher to take a breath. You mentioned Austin Marsh. He came to a preseason event and tested, not a huge frame, but tested through the roof on all the physical measurables. And he's a guy that's proven in game he can hit. There's just no soft spots for these guys. Kevin, I don't know if you agree there.
No, 100%. I do. I like that depth a lot, and that is a physical lineup and arguably the state's best lineup. One of certainly in a short conversation, the list is they'd be right there. Wouldn't be outside anyone's top three. I wouldn't imagine.
Wow, that's formidable. When you can put that much pressure on a defense, I think that, and you got a pitcher really laboring to get through a lineup. In high school, you get past number 6, 5, even sometimes. They can do some damage. But when you got that 1 through 9 in high school, that's brutal. It really is.
Hey Brian, before you unveil, we're to the top 3 now.
Yeah.
I want to do a real quick hitter. I'm going to roll through some teams that just missed our top, and I'm going to go fast here. But this is our on deck teams. Someone in this group will certainly be in our top 10 rankings at some point in the season. Lafayette just missed out. One of the scarier offenses in the state, led by Xander Schmidt, Paul Pratt. There's a lot of offense in this Lafayette ball club, and won that district that Eureka and Vianney were in last year. They're going to be a handful this year. Borgia, man, it was tough leaving them out of the top 15. They got one of my favorite players in the state, Jack Noby, a legit two-way guy. electric arm. Will be on scouts radars up to 94. Kearney, going to be a really good team over in the Kansas City area. Columbia Hickman, a lot of pitching depth there. 3 legit arms. Tanner Graham's over there. A lot of pitching depth at Hickman. Rockhurst. Expect Rockhurst to have a big year this year. They got an awful lot of talent. Love their catcher, Evan DeMario. Lucas Red on the mound. Wouldn't shock me at all if Rockhurst has a huge year. Columbia Rockbridge. Really good program. A lot of talent there. They did take a hit. Ty Thompson transferred and is now in a prep school in Florida. But Rockbridge is really well coached and always a solid team. Glendale, another team out of the southwest part of the state. Sebastian Norman, one of the top talents in the state. Outfielder heading, third base outfield guy heading to Oklahoma State. Seckman, one of the top lineups in the state, led by Ryan Bradford, and they got a really, really deep lineup. Liberty, the Kansas City Liberty. We've talked about that district in there with Liberty North and Staley and Park Hill. I think Liberty could have a good year. Zumwalt East has been to the Final Four in recent years. Got Eric Williams, Jackson Carter, a lot to like there at Zumwalt East. Liberty Wentzville, our other Liberty. A lot of pitching depth there. We'll see if anyone takes the next step there. They got some big arms. Ty Holman, who missed last year with injury, the St. Louis U commit, is up to 93. Braden Schnurbush, a 6'6" right-hander, up to 92. Heading to John Logan. And they have some other pieces behind that. They haven't quite cracked through in an extremely, extremely competitive league that they play in. But they have the pieces to do it this year. DeSmet. I like this DeSmet ball club a lot. There are some very solid pieces there. That's going to be, I think the MCC right behind one of our top 3 teams is pretty wide open this year. It will be fun to watch that DeSmet team. Oakville has a lot of talent on the mound. Adam Kilburn, who missed most of last year, heading to Tennessee. CJ Lake on the mound. They have a couple other really nice pitching pieces. Elias Catholic in the middle part of the state has been really strong. Ozark, Cooper Pumphrey heading to Missouri. Hudson Roberts heading to Arkansas is going to be one of the better teams in the middle part of the state. CBC lost a ton. They had one of the best and scariest offenses. Don't sleep on them. They got a number of bats back this year. I like them. Derek Pitts, big fan of Derek Pitts. Jake McGee heading to Oklahoma, left-handed bat. I like him a lot. And then St. Dominic out in St. Charles has a lot of arms that I really like. So those are just wanted to hit on those guys. It's a really strong group and are on deck, and those guys just missed our top 15, Brian.
Yeah. There's a lot of teams, man, to talk about there. We don't have time, but that was good. Number 3, Vianney. Up and down, man. The middle of that lineup, Trey Jozwikowski, Nolan Jaworski, Riker Benz, big-time bats. They've got the arms. This team is ready to, I think, make a Final Four run.
It is. I've talked about Vianney for a couple of years now, telling you how deep or how many good young players they had. Well, now those young players are juniors, or most of them are. I like this Vianney team a lot. Arguably the state's best pitching depth, at least in terms of high end. You're looking at start with J.D. Dorman, recently committed to Mizzou as a top end guy. You got Nick Stewart, who's currently uncommitted, but another 90-mile-per-hour arm. You got Charlie Spoonhauer, the Missouri State commit. Jaden Ferguson. Most people don't roll out a true closer in high school baseball. They got one. The Texas A&M commit, who is a low to mid 90s guy. There is a lot of pitching depth, and not to mention Trey Jezereski can hop on the mound and go upper 80s. You got Andrew Anderson. There is a lot of pitching depth there at Vianney. And then, you go with the lineup, some big physical bats. Trey Jezereski is one of the top bats in the state, no question about it. And he can hurt you. He can, run the ball out of the yard and split gaps. Nolan Jaworski, 6'6" left-handed bat, just committed to Cincinnati. Real feel for hitting. Wears out the left center gap. High on base percentage guy. Power's going to come as well, but hits for an extremely high average and lots of doubles. Then you got Riker Benz, the Oklahoma commit, looking for him to have a big year this year. So I like this Vianney club. They certainly have enough talent and more than enough pitching, maybe 2 times over, to win a state championship this year. A lot of them are juniors this year. So we'll see. There's some battle-tested teams that we have slightly ahead of them. But it would not surprise me at all if Vianney was the ultimate state champion here, ultimately the state champion here in Missouri.
Andy, you got something to go in there?
Yeah, it's just more of the same. I can't tell you how impressive J.D. Dorman was at the end of the summer last year on the mound, and Kevin Future Gamer, correct, one of the top arms at the Future Games. Anytime that's where you're starting, you're in a good position. But like Kevin said, Jaden Ferguson, that's a legit college closer that they're going to roll out in high school baseball. It's just if they're going to score 3 to 4 runs a game, which don't be surprised if it's 8 or 9, they're going to be really tough to beat day in and day out. And it's next man up for them. We talked a little bit about it with Lee Summit West with the depth. Vianney's on both sides of the ball, has just tremendous depth.
That's what makes them tough. Most of the teams that have a stud pitcher, you can't wait to get them out of the game. And now if you get, one of these studs out of the game, you get a Stewart, a Dorman, a Spoonhauer out of the game, and it's like, oh no, now someone that's going to throw harder is coming into the game, which is, kind of like how a college team or a pro team is built. You got to figure out how to score off Ferguson in a 1 or 2 inning good luck. Yeah. So that is their ace in the hole there.
Number 2, Staley. Coach Wilson, his last season going out, we had a chance to talk with Coach Wilson quite a few times. We're going to see Staley at Liberty North, so I'm excited about that. Another team, my goodness, Andy, up and down the lineup. Where do you start?
I think you start actually with a junior college commit in Lucas Wilson. I think the IQ, the table setter at the top of the lineup, switch hitter, steady Eddie with the glove. I think you start there, though he may not on paper be their most talented prospect. He may be their most consistent player. Obviously, he's been there, done that. He grew up in the game. That's where I start building this team. and then you get into, a big, huge corner bat and Jackson Gluck. He can leave the yard at any point. You have Keaton Unruh in the outfield, who's a thoroughbred. He's gonna be a problem. On the mound, Hunter Hampshire may be one of the tougher looks as far as deception and pitchability, and he's going to run through some really good hitters this year that are going back to the dugout wondering what they just saw. That's a Johnson County commit. Then those are probably the standout seniors for me, though they have more. You get into the junior class and you get into the junior class here. Let me turn my notes over. There we go.
Technology.
Jake Thomas on the mound, the Butler commit, is going to spin one of the better breaking balls in the state. It's an exciting guy to watch. You've got Easton Felipe behind the dish. Talk about needing a championship catcher to win a championship. They got one. Even guys like Jacob Garcia, who's going to play in the outfield and throw strikes on the mound. Those are just their junior and senior classes. They've got so much depth, so many well-rounded players, so many guys that have played on the summer circuit and played at a high level. I haven't even mentioned their head coach yet, being one of the best high school baseball coaches in the country. So,
or their left-hander Brody Earlbeck heading to Iowa.
Oops.
Who's probably their number one.
By the way, a two-way player who could be talked about both as an outfielder and on the mound. Kev, what did we just see him up to the other day? 91 from the left side on the mound.
I believe so. Yes.
I think he was 98 from the outfield. He just keeps getting better.
And the scary thing about this is, we're not even sure they'll get out of their district. That's how talented their district is. They lost to Liberty North in a 1-0 game last year in the district championship game. That was more or less a state championship caliber game in their district final. So that district is loaded. I could see a couple of teams coming out of that district, and I could see a couple of those teams in that district winning a state championship. But one or two of them, they're not all going to get to go. Only one team will advance out of that district. So it's one of those situations where we have multiple teams from that district in our top 5, and one of them won't be a district championship this year. But we really like the Staley group this year. And again, hats off to Coach Wilson on a great career. Thank you for all you've done, for baseball and, your student athletes. He's moved an awful lot of kids on to not only play college baseball, but just to set them up and push them forward in life. And so thank you to Coach Wilson in his final year this year. And he has the team to go out on the right note this year.
There you go. And Andy, I don't know if we've nicknamed this the District 8, the District of Death.
There's not an off night. There's no room for a bad day. You're just gonna. It really reminds me of kind of the college baseball setup where you're gonna have quality players all around the field, and somebody's gonna have to do something special every night to win.
Absolutely. And then let's unveil it. Coach Perkins, Francis Howell. Honestly, I know we've talked about Staley and these guys. I mean, this is one of those teams. I think it's the most pitching depth, and you were talking about that earlier with a couple other teams. And I don't see as much on the west side, and that's a tough thing. Sometimes we don't get as chance to see some of these things. But I've not seen this much pitching depth on a high school baseball team ever. And to me, this is what, because offensively, it's a juggernaut. You don't breathe. There's nobody in this lineup that you can take off, and the pitching depth is just unbelievable.
Yeah, the depth is just the best way to describe this Howell team. The program is unbelievably deep. A ton of players moving on to play collegiately. You got an old veteran team, and then you have young, exciting players that are going to push the older guys for serious playing time and are going to have a major role on the team. To me, we're going to start with Titus Sissel. He is our number one ranked player in our senior class. He is now heavily on some draft boards for this spring. Dynamic player, 6'4" runner, switch hitting shortstop who can also play center field and has played center field. That's where he started his career for Howell. So he's played center, second. Now he anchors the team at shortstop, and is most likely going to be their leadoff player, batter. Then you got Leo Humbert, who has also been starting since his freshman year, hitting somewhere in the middle of that lineup, third, fourth. I guess he could hit second even. Who can run the ball out of the yard, major gap power, hits for high average, and will play center field for him. Tons of depth. You slide over to the mound. And we'll get to Jackson Vaughn as well.
Right.
Started as a sophomore, heading to Wichita State. Another dynamic left-handed bat. And really, every single guy they have in that lineup is, I really like Brendan Wibbenmeyer. They just so much depth. But on the mound, go touch on that. The interesting thing about their pitching, they have tons of seniors that have been there, done that. Alex Bryan, the senior right-hander heading to Maryville, has started a state championship game for them. Won a district playoff game, championship game versus Fort Zumwalt West last year for them. It's going to be a big-time strike thrower with a 3-pitch mix up to 90. You got guys like Quinn Redfield. You got Adam Shipley heading to St. Louis U, who was a conference starter for him last year. You got Grayson Coleman. I really like Eli Skidmore. So it's just the depth is really impressive. But I also really like a couple of their sophomore pitchers a lot. One of which pitched varsity last year. You got Jake Brettschneider, who is an absolutely electric arm. Low 90s stuff currently, and projects for much higher. He's just a sophomore, pitched as a freshman. His brother Jack is also out of their bullpen. And then Dylan Curtis, the right-hander, who is expected to be somewhat in that starting rotation mix this year. 6'4", 5 right-hander with a high feel for pitchability. Velocity has come along. He's upper 80s right now, but it's not too hard to look at him and see that kid's going to throw a lot harder and already is a proven out-getter. So good defense, good pitching, a lot of hitting, great coach, and they've been right on the doorstep the past couple of years. So they lost to Liberty North in the championship game last year. 2 years ago, they lost in a semifinal game to them. They're right there. They've been right there. This is the year I think they take the final step. and it is our pick to be the state champions in 6A this year.
Not to mention the junior Braden Ray, mid-80s, left-handed.
Right. Yeah, and he was one of our stars of the offseason. I left him out completely. I talked to Coach Perkins about their team, and he gets put in a terrible spot. Now, every coach would want to be in this terrible spot. They sometimes have to cut guys that are committed to colleges to fill out their roster. So it's an enviable position to be in for sure. But that's the type of depth that roster has.
Any thoughts, Andy?
I'll just go back up to the top of the offense. Titus Sissel and Leo Humbert, in anybody's conversation for top 5 hitters in the state, if those two aren't in there, you're probably missing something. So you're getting guys that Titus Sissel may be the biggest problem as far as putting the bat on the ball, running the bases, expect to hit for a high average. And Leo, Kevin, you may disagree. Leo Humbert may be the guy I don't want to face with nobody on. That guy can leave the yard on about 6 or 7 different pitches. He did it at the future games. It's really impressive. So just you talk all the depth in the world. Those two guys offensively are enough to put up 2 to 4 runs a game. They're just that dangerous.
And I like the fact that Titus from the left side gained more power through this last summer. I think, you saw the power come in the bat on the left side, which, my goodness, if you got power on both sides of that plate, I don't know how you handle that kid. It's going to be hard to get him out.
Especially if you do happen to pitch your way into an advantage count, he understands how to hit, and he understands that if he puts a ball on the ground on the left side of the infield, there's a real chance he's safe anyway. And now you've got Leo Humbert behind him, so now you've got a guy on base and a guy that's got a real chance to leave the yard or at least knock down your fence. And then it just sets up for the rest of those guys. It's not that those are the only two, but you've got such a problem up top, and then those rest of those guys get to hit with runners in scoring position. And by the way, you better not give up more than a couple runs because that pitching staff's going to handle their business too.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. I appreciate these two gentlemen bringing this knowledge. I think Francis Howell, I agree. I think it's so much talent on that team. It's almost absurd. You don't see that too much in a high school team. And I think it's going to be fun to watch, but you can't leave out. We saw the depth. You can't leave out Elise Summit West. You can't leave out of Vianney. These teams are going to be right there all the way down to Blue Springs South, Blue Springs. It's going to be so competitive. And the tough thing is like we said, District 8, the District of Death, one of these teams is not going to, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. So look forward to it. Going to be a lot of fun. Guys, I appreciate the time. Always fun.
Yeah, this is, a lot of fun. This is a fun time of year. We've had fun the past, month or 6 weeks, Brian, talking about, what we think and, who's done what in the preseason. Now the fun begins. They get to sort this all out on the field, and we get to go watch it all. It's going to be a lot of fun to take in, and best of luck to all the teams, coaches, players out there. Good luck this season, and look forward to seeing you guys in Springfield at the state championships.
Absolutely. Andy, we're going to have to get you back on, talk a little more Kansas baseball. We're getting a little long. That's okay. I don't mind it. It was good conversation, but we will get that. We got Diego come back on, talk a little bit of Illinois, but we definitely want to get the Kansas guys, so I'll be reaching out back to you. Thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate the knowledge over there.
Absolutely love coming on, talking about baseball, and really there was a ton of Missouri stuff to get talked about, so not too surprised there.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. Please, if you like what we're doing, right below here, subscribe. We appreciate that very much. Hit the dinger next to it. That's what we do. Chick stick the long ball. That gets you all your notifications for upcoming episodes such as this. Great information from the guru himself. And, you know, I got to come up with a nickname. I'll get one.
I'm fine living in Kevin's shadow.
Oh,
It's a big one.
I love it, Drew. Drew just got it. The urban legend.
Urban legend.
There it is. There it is. I love it. Good thinking. My crack engineer over there, Drew, come up with that. So, hey, folks, always remember, have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, Kevin, what do pitchers got to do?
Keep throwing strikes.
Exactly. Hitters, Andy, give some advice to hitters.
Swing hard.
I like it. I like it. Folks, we'll see y'all next time.